Morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for yet another conversation with. Today, we're joined by three leaders in the franchise space. I'm very excited to have the conversation today. For those of you that are following at home that would like to join, I'm just going to throw this up on the screen. Go to our Facebook page. It's a private Facebook group. It's meant for Facebook and franchise information. In the private community. So if you want to join, if you go to facebook.com and search for Franchise Growth Mastermind, go ahead and click join and we'll put you into the group. So just quick updates. We're tracking as much information as possible. The bit of news that we're looking into overnight is that Google, Facebook, and LinkedIn are denying any advertising that uses the word COVID, coronavirus, crises in ads or URLs. So that's going to be an important thing for franchise brands to know on the other side of this, because many brands use digital advertising as a part of their way to get in front of the buyers. We're going to watch it carefully, and we'll report back if we learn more of how that policy may change. But figure that's important for you guys to know as we figure out how are we navigating through this. Over the last few weeks, we've gone through the bracing for impact, where we're trying to understand the panic to our business. Then we're into the intermediate stage right now, where part of our days are spent dealing with the panic and the challenges that exist within our brand. And then part of our days are focused on what opportunities are on the other side of this. So I don't want to waste too much time with my thoughts. I want to get straight to our panel. Akash, why don't we start with you? Would love to know what's going on in your world right now, what's going on from a business standpoint, a franchise standpoint, and a personal standpoint as you're navigating the craziness.
This is like our fourth week now that we've been sheltered. So we had kind of a week of a head start before others, or in some cases 2 weeks. Just like anybody else, the first 7-10 days were shock and awe, and then you get over it, and this is where we're at. And I hate to say this, but I'm actually really excited because I get to do things that I've been wanting to do, and we're a very young franchisor. In fact, 3 of our stores just opened in February, that's a different story, but just the things that I've been able to do in the last 1 month or in the last 3 weeks have been phenomenal. My team's just stepped up and they've done so many things that we weren't able to do in the 6 months prior. And we've signed up new contracts with technology and things like that. So I'm using this time to do that. Obviously, sales are where they're at. We're down 60% in most stores, some stores 80%. Where we had bars and things like that. So, but we're going to make it. We're going to be profitable in a couple of weeks, and that's just how it's going to be. It is what it is. No more complaining. This is who we are now, and we're going to figure it out.
Appreciate that. And Brett, same question to you. What's going on in your world?
Well, it really started out not really as a surprise, because I was traveling internationally and I could kind of see this coming. But as the days became weeks here, I really started to parallel back to times past when, I experienced other humbling events. And, really in our business, which is carry out and delivery, we're probably at Little Caesars, probably one of the few restaurant chains that are A, still open, and B, thriving in this environment. Not only in the US, but around the world, in markets that we can remain open lawfully. But from a development standpoint, the first few weeks, everybody kind of put things on hold. But now a lot of folks are waking up to the fact that life goes on and they have to change to a new normal. And in my life, kind of the humility of these times is that it really gives you that opportunity to level up, change the way you do business, give yourself an opportunity to advance not only what you're doing, but who you're doing it with. And right now, I think the opportunity is really poignant, to have those conversations with people who recognize the benefits of things like takeout and delivery, the touchless convenience of what we have as the pizza portal, and really kind of refine the challenges of the third-party delivery business.
Appreciate that, Brett. And James, same question to you. What's going on in your guys' world?
Yeah, we kind of think about the business in three stages: our open gyms, our pre-opening gyms and the onboarding phases, and then our development pipeline. All of our open gyms are mandated to be closed right now, so there the focus is on how to make sure that we continue to engage with our members in meaningful ways, through live stream classes, and through online workouts. So we're keeping a lot of members. Perhaps counterintuitively, our open studio is actually selling more memberships than they were 2 or 3 months ago. What we're seeing is people at home on the internet scrolling Instagram, and just not having that connection to their home gym, so being more inclined to look elsewhere and sign up for memberships. So from a sales perspective, it's super promising. And then obviously with those open studios having to maintain a much smaller cost base throughout this time when they're not pulling in real revenue. There's real opportunity for us and excitement on the onboarding stage. We have a huge pipeline of franchisees signed up at various stages of opening, from lease negotiation, permitting, construction, architectural design. All of those things are still happening. So where we see opportunity here is coming out of this when the markets reopen, and having that large pipeline of franchisees poised and ready to open to what will almost certainly be a very different competitive landscape in the fitness industry, where unfortunately for many, they either won't be able to reopen or they'll reopen and struggle, which will mean over the coming several months and further, a lot of members having their gyms closed and looking for new places to train. So as we think about our franchisees opening into that market, it presents a real opportunity to capitalize on some of those members who need new gyms and new studios. And then on the development pipeline, same thing. It's super interesting. March was one of our biggest months in history. And I think what we're seeing is this bifurcation of investors where some are kind of saying, I'm going to sit back, I'm going to just take stock of everything and see what's happening in the world. And others who are saying, now's the time to move. The real estate market's going to entirely reset. I'm going to be getting base rents, rent abatement periods, tenant improvement allowances that I would never have gotten 3 months ago. And then I'm going to be opening to a market where the competitive landscape, like I said, is completely different. So we see those two different groups of investors: the ones who are bearish, the ones who are bullish, and the bullish ones are moving and looking to take advantage of what's happening in the market.
What's interesting is 3 different businesses, right? And by all accounts, Little Caesars sticking to their game plan, sticking to their philosophy, carry out, delivery. I love the pizza portal, right? This crisis fell into your main groove. But for everyone else, there's shutdowns, and everyone's talking about, and I'm sure this will be a valid factor post-COVID, which is recession-resistant essential services. But all 3 of you are sharing a sentiment of opportunity, right? Which is something we're seeing consistently with good brands, smart founders, smart management team members. So if I could project to whatever date in the future, and let's hope it's very soon, and we're focused on that relaunch, the launch pad. When you tell this story months from now, what's going to be the opportunity and what's going to be the shift in your business that you didn't expect, but it's going to turn into that big opportunity? I can throw that to anyone.
I think for us, it's the fact that URSA, which is the governing body of the fitness industry, estimated that as many as 40% of gyms won't reopen or will reopen and not stay open for another year. That's a huge change in the offerings and the supply of fitness services. I think what's going to happen is you're going to have a complete change in the market whereby any of the underperformers previously are just not going to be able to survive. And those that will thrive are those that have the ability to adapt to changing social norms. When things open up again, there's obviously a big question as to whether there will be social distancing requirements on things like gyms. Our typical gym has a 32-person capacity. Maybe that's 10 people for 3 months, for 6 months. So we need to have plans in place to adapt our model for our franchisees, both in terms of the programming as well as in terms of the staffing. If the class size is different, the potential revenue ramp is different, which means the path to profitability is different. So we need to adapt not only on the programming side to account for what requirements might be mandated or what we might mandate to keep our members safe, and then how we restructure our org charts within each of our studios to make sure that our franchisees can grow to profitability quickly. But I think that as we think about who will achieve success in whatever industry it is, it's those companies that are right now thinking through those contingencies, thinking through those market re-entry plans, having a number of different options in place that once guidelines become clear, they can essentially pick off the shelf the plan that they've predetermined and go out and execute that to perfection. There's certainly going to be huge opportunity there, but there's also certainly going to be huge carnage. The question is, which side of that do you perform?
Yeah, I think that, every morning since this has happened, I wake up with the same sentence in my head that opportunity and volatility kind of happen at the same time. And it might be almost convenient to blame a lot of things on COVID. But previous to COVID, a lot of these trends were already happening. People are already concerned with, health and wellness. They were concerned with convenience. They were concerned with, more family time. And a lot of restaurants that have 300 seats were struggling because people were ordering more delivery. They were using drive-thrus more often. They were picking up product on their way home. And, COVID kind of amplified and magnified trends that are already occurring. And what is really poignant now is that people take this time and realize that in most times of crisis, that's when the solutions occur, because people have to create a solution to survive. Whereas maybe before, the economy was so good, they didn't really have to. They needed to, but they didn't have to. But now you have to. And I think the have to isn't so much a pivot as it is kind of a sense of a new business model, a new reality that you have to just realize is occurring. So in the restaurant business, even if you have 300 seats, with social distancing, 30 to 50% of those seats go away. So how do you replace that income to make your break even, let alone make money? And third-party delivery, our delivery and takeout was kind of that mechanism that was trying to move in before to take up that empty space. But now it's a have to. It's not a need to. And I think that's the main precursor or result of this COVID virus thing is that when we reopen, it's not going to just slowly go back to normal. It's going to be different, at least for 10 to 18 months. And that reality kind of has to set in now, and people have to take advantage of this volatility as an opportunity to move. I think that's kind of the reality.
For us, again, opportunity is out there, and we're going to be grabbing that. But what I've seen that's happened over the last 3 weeks is I've personally become very intimate with the brand, with the people, with every single ingredient because I still run food, with every single ingredient, because we can use this opportunity to kind of cut food 2 points or cut labor 2 points. but even improve your processes, and be it fast casual or QSR or whatever that may be. So that's what we're doing, and everything that I do every morning is opportunity, opportunity, opportunity is amazing. I'm excited. We have 3 lease renewals coming up this year, so I think this is gonna be great. But it's very hurtful. But that's just the cycle, right? Um, but I think the brands that are going to be not pivot but adjust as he just said, and just become very tight with operations. I think as he said, the economy was good. We were not paying attention to some of these things, and it's surprising of like how many details that one misses out. And that's what we're doing, and I think that's where we are going to be focusing on in the next 6-9 months.
What I love about this conversation is that the word opportunity keeps coming up. I think Brett, your point about really understanding where we're going to be for the next 18 months is important to also understand like where does the opportunity fall. But it's interesting because if we look back at the first set of conversations that we're having, it was very like in week 1 of doing this, it was very much like, yeah, this isn't going to be a big deal. It's overthought by the government. Week 2, it's like, this is serious. So it's like the punch is about to come to the face, and you're like, I can dodge this punch, and then you're like, oh no, this is really going to hurt. So then it hits, and then everybody kind of took a step back and like, wow, that sucked. And now we're spinning back to who we are as people to say, here's the opportunity in the future. I think the 40% of gyms that open or won't stay open for a year is because you think about the millions and millions of dollars that were spent on real estate development to find those locations. The work's already done. I thought when Blockbuster went away, some of the businesses that were smart and took over the Blockbuster spent billions of dollars on real estate development. It was already done. They knew who the demographics were. So I love that this is turning into opportunity. So two things, and I would love you guys' opinions on it. One is, obviously, now that you're in the opportunity mindset, what is the time frame? What are the sprints that you're looking at? And second, I want to throw this quote up that Brett said, that I think this is going to be one of the other challenges that comes up, that a lot of businesses will blame their problems on COVID. And the reality is, if you are operationally headed in the right direction prior to this, that probably helps set you up for the opportunity on the other side. James, I'll start with you. Any opinions on kind of the comments that I said?
Yeah, the first one, I think the Blockbuster one, I think you are absolutely spot on. Orange Theory, fantastic boutique fitness franchise. I think a big part of their growth of opening studios came from slotting their franchisees into Blockbuster stores. That's very much how we're thinking about the next 12 to 18 months, knowing that a lot of retail will become available that hasn't been available, and candidly is relatively hard to get the right size, the right anchor tenants, no exclusive uses from other fitness. So that's going to completely open up, and I think that it's going to start happening relatively slowly at first. Landlords are going to look to hold on to rent rates. They're not going to want to give too much away too soon. But as stores start being unable to pay rent and ultimately going out of business, you're going to see a huge number of real brands in the fitness industry going out of business. Those brands that have done that market research on where a successful and thriving location can and should be. And so you'll be able to slot franchisees very quickly into those locations. Not only that, especially if we're going into former fitness studios, the build out is much easier. The permitting process is much easier because you're not having any kind of change of use. So I think again, when this word opportunity comes up, that's a strategy that's very real at Mayweather right now.
And Brett, thoughts on anything? Any comments of what I said, or obviously what James said?
Well, after 34 years in this business, I've watched how franchising has helped so many people survive and thrive and build wealth and provide great products to consumers. But I've also watched as franchisors have hurt franchisees with bad unit economics and not well thought out business plans. And I think the reality of this kind of parallels a lot of my personal experiences in this business, and that is, when you have these times of humility, you really look for those things that count, like relationships and trust, and all the things that surround this word trust. And the fact is, if your business model isn't set up to benefit the franchisee and the customer in a way that they want to purchase, um, ultimately, maybe this COVID thing may do some good things. It may take some franchisors out of the business cycle that shouldn't have been there in the first place, and that the stronger, more viable businesses are able to grow and thrive into real estate, like the gentleman from Mayweather was talking about. One of the reasons Orange Theory was able to grow and still grows is because their unit economics are so strong, right? I mean, if you have a profitable business model, people are attracted to it. I know that seems overly simplistic, but I think this idea of trust in times of chaos is a big deal, not only for franchisees, but consumers. They need to realize that where they're going to buy their food or to the gym or whatever the service is, that it's safe, that the franchisee and the franchisor has been thoughtful in how they deliver their product. We do a lot of third-party delivery, so we're constantly testing third-party delivery. And one of the things that we've noticed is those brands that take the time to secure the packaging well really have a much higher satisfaction and recidivism than those that don't. And it's amazing to me how many large, sophisticated brands are sending third-party deliveries, for instance, out without securing the packaging. But in the past, I suppose that was maybe not as relevant. But the idea of having a business model that consumers can trust moving forward, and one that has good unit economics is completely important, and it comes as a direct result of this word trust.
So
Akash, anything you would like to add?
Yeah, in our case, I think, again, this is going to sound a little harsh, but I think the businesses that are going to blame COVID for their problems were businesses that had problems. Again, sorry, being a little harsh here. And in some cases, it's a blessing as well, right? It's, okay, this is it. We've tried for a couple of years, it's not going to work out. And, fortunately, this happened. In some cases, it's fortunate. But I think what we've done is, for our franchisees, again, we're very, very young, we're very small. Three of these stores just opened. But what we've done in all the territories that we've sold around the country is just, been in touch with landlords and said, hey, we're here. We're second generation specialists, and keep us in mind, and we'll, there may be bailout, opportunities where we may buy a brand, be it an Indian brand, or we may buy locations where the stores are a couple of years old and built to kind of our specs. So that's what we're doing for our franchisees, so that we can go back to them and say, hey, you spent X amount in your first store and you're spending so much in your second, but on your third, fourth, here's an opportunity for you where you can get in for 30% of the cost. The landlords have been very kind of receptive. We're obviously an Indian fast casual brand. There haven't been very many, and there aren't very many. So people do pick up the phone. And but I think, I gotta salute kind of everybody in the food business, and I'm sure the fitness guys are as resilient as we are. But we've been, we are a very resilient group. The food business is just, we'll be fine. I think our franchisees are looking to us for leadership that we haven't been able. We don't know how to kind of provide, because this is the first time for us, right? We haven't seen a downside, again, being so new. So this is a great learning opportunity for me personally, and hopefully I never see this in my lifetime. But the chances are, be it financially or COVID or pandemic, and a different kind of pandemic, we might. But this teaches me that, right? It's a learning opportunity, and learned very, very fast and very quick. Again, trust, as the gentleman said. and being there for your franchisees. And we don't have the biggest pockets out there yet, and we've kind of done what we have to, and to support them and be on calls with them every day, and uh, help them kind of with scheduling or labor, whatever little, kind of, again, going to the intimacies of your business. That's kind of where we think it is important. But yeah, for us, second generation spaces and kind of dollar cost averaging your build outs, that's where we're helping a lot at this point.
What I find interesting as we have these leadership conversations, there's consistency and symmetry about the opportunity. And I know there's people in the franchise world who are like posting right now on LinkedIn with all their hashtags about we're going to have some great sales opportunities and hashtag buy this and that stupidity. But what's happening is there's a quiet confidence in franchise leaders. I mean, and just reflecting on what you gentlemen are saying, I think the confidence and the opportunity exists because you understand your brand. And I'll use Brett's terms, right? Humility and honesty and understanding your brand. And what's a great example for me is how Brett is just talking about how secure the packaging is, right? Something many people overlook. But go back years or months, that came about from understanding this is where we exist. This is what we do really well, and let's be exceptional at it. So it sounds like a little nuance for businesses today, but it sounds like Little Caesar's been thinking about that for a while, right? So it's when you do all those things, that's when there's the opportunity. If I connected with everything you four gentlemen said, whether Brett, which forget about franchising, might as well be a philosophy course, but right, opportunity and volatility, they do happen at the same time, which is so true. And then your point too about approaching it with humility, which I'll add to Akash, you said something so interesting to me, which was, you're using this time. One of the things you said you're using it for, I think you said to become more intimate with your brand, which to me gets to securing the packaging years ago before it mattered, right? So if I put it all together, Brett's philosophy, which I may subscribe to after this video, Brett, right? But also then the idea that I think Brett said COVID's only amplifying trends that were happening. And then Akash, to me, saying it's time to get more intimate with the brand, which also has to do with unit economics. And then James's perspective of, hey, let's also attack the economic realities, which are competitors are closing and there's real estate opportunity. I don't think people could put this together in a sincere way and find the opportunity without knowing your brand and why you exist. Just curious generally what you guys think, or Nick, what you think, but these are the common threads that I'm seeing, and it's really motivating for me for the upside. And by the way, I think brands that aren't prepared for this are going to get crushed. And if they have the capital, they're going to get crushed. They won't even know they were crushed. Nick and I have been calling them zombie brands. So I'm just curious what you guys, I know I threw a lot out, but it's really motivating hearing what you're saying.
Yeah, I think you're going to have certain industries where no matter how well run the company is, it's going to be exceptionally challenging. Airlines, for one example. But in those industries where you're going to see the opportunists, you're going to see those who fall by the wayside, that's when it comes in how well they were run operationally prior to this. And that's really where you're going to separate those who were chugging along, perhaps not running a business in the best way. Perhaps the brand wasn't supporting them in the best way if they're part of a franchise, where the model wasn't potentially set up in the right way and profitability was thin. And then you're going to have those, and even within a brand, you're going to have the right operators and poor operators. And I think you're going to see a lot of that as well, both at the brand level where brands are going to fall away, and within a particular franchise system or company where the individual operators, you're going to see very different results from those. But to the gentleman's point, if prior to this you are set up in the right way, and you have a management team, especially again, talking about a franchise, if you have a franchisor who's skilled and experienced in supporting and managing a franchise network and who genuinely has the best interests of the franchise in mind, then they have the ability to adapt to something like this. They're putting together those plans right now. We as a franchisor are in a fortunate position, given where we are in the franchise life cycle. The other way we're seeing opportunity out of this is where other fitness franchises are laying people off at the senior executive level. We're actively recruiting right now. For us, it's a huge opportunity to bring seasoned executives in who might not otherwise have been available to us. Know that the growth is going to be so big coming out of this that we're going to have an even stronger team to support our franchisees on the other side and make sure that the business model that we are refining and adapting and developing is one that will be profitable and set them up for long-term success.
Just two follow-ups for me. And first is to Akash and then to Brett. Akash, I'm just curious briefly what you're visualizing. What do you mean when you say you're becoming more intimate with your brand? And then Brett, you said we should expect things to be different for at least 10 to 18 months, which was very surprising to me because the simplicity of that's very powerful. And you could address that. And my follow-up on that is, do you really mean 10 to 18 or do you mean it forever? But Akash, could you start with the, what do you mean by becoming more intimate with your brand?
Going down to kind of on the food side, every little ingredient, on the labor side, every little minute that an employee kind of comes in and works and what he or she does when that person comes in, setting up our lines a certain way, because, we typically have 2 lines at every store. We're only operating with 1. So then you start thinking, maybe I can have a smaller hood, which obviously is less cost. Maybe I can have a smaller set of equipment and I can still churn out the same volume, which I am able to do in some of the stores that are open, which are most of ours are open. But that part of kind of detail that we need to get to. Listen, this thing came so fast, so quick, and hurt so bad, and most businesses, most food businesses, smaller, my size or slightly even larger than mine, are not super well capitalized. We're not ready for this to happen. Fortunately, we're going to be okay. But within 2 weeks of this happening, we were down. Most of these, when I say we, kind of the food business we were down, on our knees, and in 2 weeks for most of us, and struggling to stay open or not being open or may never even open again. So, going back to again the intimacy of it is, let's look at our financials. That's the basic thing. Money is so important, and it's not your weekly cash flow. And that's something that's kind of slaps people in the face. I can pay my bills. I'm doing this. Maybe I'll make 15% at the end of the year if I'm lucky. It doesn't work like that. I mean, that's la la land, and this kind of brings us to let's not live in that la la land again, and maybe diversify a little bit if you have the opportunity. Maybe build your catering business again. Sorry, I'm talking very food specific because that's my world, but maybe build your catering business a little bit more, and not just rely on the foot traffic that comes in, or not just rely on your third party. Build your own delivery platform. So things like that. I mean, looking at every little detail, because what happens is when you grow, complexities happen, and I've seen that with supply chain. It's the toughest thing in the world, and we fortunately solved it. But then you simplify things, and your tastes somehow get a little diluted. And for me, being an Indian brand, we're not going to be able to dilute our taste or our flavors. So just again, looking at reworking all our formulas and looking at our co-packing relationships, and just every little, I've probably gone 30% of it so far. But if I share a list with you, it's probably 60, 70 more things that we have to do. Very minute, like packaging was one of them. We're a very large food, delivery is a very big part of our business. We were one of kind of DoorDash's first customers when they signed up, when they started. So we've been doing this forever, but we never, 2-3 years ago, we never paid attention to packaging. And just because it was good then doesn't mean it's good now. And if you don't get better, you get worse. So that's kind of the philosophy that we live by. And I think my advice to anybody who's paying attention here is, look at capitalization, look at your recipes. This is a great time to do that.
And Brad, is this 10 to 18 months, or do we have a philosophical life change here?
Well, what I meant by 10 to 18 months is from everything I've read, it's going to take 10 to 18 months to come up with a long-term solution for the virus issue, meaning some type of medicine that either treats it or helps us avoid, at least specifically this virus, and or things like it. And so there's this 10 or 18 month window where uncertainty will be at its peak. And, but if I were to kind of rewind here for a second and get into kind of my core thought, the idea of a recession or the result of this virus isn't something new to this country. In fact, we've been in recession more than we've been in economic expansion. And most people watching this don't realize that because they were born, after World War II, when this country has expanded its economic prowess, almost to this day. But prior to World War II, this country was mostly in some form of recession and has been several years between, World War II and today. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that the idea of recession is not new. And kind of a parallel thought to that is that words matter. So when you're leading a franchise company and you're talking to consumers, some things that really have never changed, but are even more poignant during a recession are things like trust, health matters, family matters, pets matter, homes matter. I mean, these things have always been part of our fabric, but maybe we kind of, let go of these things a little bit during economic expansionary times because, there's money to chase. And so, when this happened, one of the first things the leadership at our company said is, hey, you guys are important to us. Don't worry. Just focus. Just move into this moment and find ways to thrive. And, those are simple words, but uncertainty was something that we didn't necessarily have to live with as an employee, but we had to live with it in our environment. And leadership in those words really matter. And the leadership in our company felt it was really important to immediately get to our customers and say, look, safety is important. Our product comes out of a 450-degree oven. It's never touched by human hands. In fact, you don't have to talk to a person to get your product. And these words have really made all the difference in the world. And the focus on things that matter have never really changed. It's just now they seem more important. But I think beyond 18 months, potentially those things will still be important. I mean, not potentially, they will. And I think that the only limited reality is, how are we going to deal with the virus? But beyond that, all of these things are part of who we are as consumers and as franchisors and franchisees. And I think it's really important to focus on those things that we can add value to and create good businesses from.
Right. That statement is so incredibly important that, the power of words in this crisis. It's how franchisees find leadership, that decision to buy into the brand would make sense. It's how you're right to what you're saying, and that relates to Sarah. In just a few statements, I would love, speaking of words, I would love for each of you to tell me what this means to you guys as franchise brands. And this is a statement that I've thought a lot about, which is be your best when facing the worst. How does that apply to each of your brands? James, I'll start with you.
Yeah. Be your best all the time. I think with us, we look to dig deep in times like this, and we use the term over support for our franchisees. I think one of the things that we do in terms of being your best when you're facing the worst is doubling down on support to the people who've put their trust, their money, and their faith in you to be the people who are guiding them and supporting them through that. So again, for us, the franchisor, that means not scaling back and saying, okay, well, how are we doing as a company, and making sure that we're totally safe. It's saying, how do we double down on the people who put their trust and their faith in us to be the guide and the support system. And I think that that's such an important role to be playing, especially when you have new business owners who perhaps haven't run a gym before, haven't run whatever company that they're a franchisee of. This is the time that the support from a franchisor is most critical. When the times are good, great, you provide them with all the support you typically would. When the times are bad, then you've got to reach into your own pocket and ensure that you're providing the services and the support and the infrastructure to make sure that they can continue through this and beyond. That's what being good when times are bad are all about. And just one thing, I got to apologize, gentlemen. My time got completely messed up this morning. I'm going to have to jump off of this right now. So apologies for leaving early, but it has been fantastic talking with each of you, and I very much appreciate you taking the time to have me on.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, James.
Bye-bye.
Brett, same question over to you. Be your best when facing the worst. What does that mean to you?
Well, the greatest part about franchising is through our mutual associations and, professional relationships, we're able to watch each other and find ways to scale our business. And what I mean by that is we can take small ideas, base hits, right? Those things that allow you to win games, small ideas, and build on those every day. And franchising is full of great people who are running and operating businesses under tremendous adversity. And those ideas allow us to scale our business through communications like this. I think that's kind of the first place I go to when there's this time of great change is, hey, I don't have all the answers. What are the opportunities to learn from others? I think the second thing is that, you really have to be able to be flexible in how you approach your messaging and your business and listen. People will tell you what's important to them, and you can't discount that. I think so many of us have been trained in franchising that we have a brand, we do things one way, and that way is the only way. And we should just communicate that, and others should kind of follow. And I think that all these business systems are important, but now is the time to kind of sit back and say, okay, yes, we do have a successful brand. Yes, it does work, but maybe there are other things that are important to people that we need to be cognizant of. And I think, again, this idea of humility and being willing to change and be a little bit entrepreneurial in times when change is necessary is imperative.
In my case, what's needed is a lot of empathy for our franchisees. In some cases, have spent their life savings or have committed their life savings to a very young, unproven brand beyond the Bay Area. And so, we were obviously, when we first start, it's your little baby that now moves across state lines. So you're very rigid. You're not making any exceptions. Again, being empathetic and saying, let's step back and say, what can we do to help our franchisees kind of develop a store? But maybe it's 80-90% of what we want, and there's some savings, there's some time savings, money savings, because we have stores under development as we speak. There's construction going on, but I write to them once a week with a with kind of a motivational PowerPoint. We have a franchise team that calls every single day, sometimes twice, thrice a day. Just, hey, what's going on? Let's help each other here. But one of the last things I wrote to them on my last email that I sent was, this is one play at a time, 3 yards at a time. That's all we need. We're not throwing deep balls right now. And the powers that we're facing are some that we're not able to change this. We just have to sit back and take stock and start signing some leases, because there's going to be amazing opportunities. and some of them already have. And for some reason, we've had a lot of franchise interest in the last 6 weeks, I should say, especially in the last 2 or 3. And that makes you very humble. You're like, people are under duress right now, and they're still interested in something that we created, not yet proven as much as because our franchisees just opened last year. So I think just kind of being very empathetic, dig deep, help them as much as possible, financially or with support, or double down, as the gentleman said who left us. Um, and being kind of, look at how we started when we first opened, right? We had no money. We bootstrapped this whole thing. And so that's what I'm kind of, my focus is just, in times of need, you've got to help. And that's where, my mind's at.
On, I mean, as we wrap around all this, the only thing I could take away from this is humility, right? And getting to your point, Brett, and everyone really, which is building on those small ideas every day to scale, right? So, to me, what's so powerful is so many things that came out of this conversation, and to say there's one thing, there isn't, but also just the mindset too. And I think the point that you raised, which is the things that matter haven't changed, but our focus has. And this is a reset of that focus at leadership levels, at brands levels, but really getting back to the grassroots of what really mattered. And that's powerful stuff. And on my end, I'm, definitely humble from this conversation. And I think it kind of makes sense why there's the opportunity, or at least how you guys are going to at least adjust to this opportunity. So, I mean, I got to tell you, I'm blown away by the conversation today on my end.
Brett, final thoughts?
Well, leading off the idea of opportunity, I think that kind of one of the things that when you make an investment in any company, whether it be a franchise or a stock, you kind of look at this idea of expandable relationships. Like, one of the reasons that cloud-based computer technology stocks are so great is that they can expand their relationship base without expanding their overhead. And I think that now is kind of that time in the franchise business to expand your relationships. Give yourself the opportunity to have conversations, not only with people that maybe wouldn't take time to talk with you before, but maybe you didn't have time to talk with. And also have different types of conversations. Maybe they're just personal conversations. But I think in light of in the spirit of opportunity, allow people to deepen their relationship with you, because in the end, what's going to matter the most is trust. And regardless if it's a recession, depression, a virus, or whatever the issue is, at the end of the day, people are going to work with people they trust. And that's going to be the key opportunity every day we come to work.
Love it. Akash, last final thoughts?
I think great time to kind of, obviously there's lots of opportunity. The word opportunity probably was used 500 times in the last hour. But, look at your tech stack. Very quickly you're going to find out who your friends are right now. On the technology side, or the food side, or supply chain side, or your landlords. You will, or your employees, or your manager. Very quickly who your friends are right now. And it's a great time to make new friends, as Brett just said. And then, just get better. Let's just use this time to get better. There's not much else we can do. And, as far as the franchisee part of it, they need someone to lean on in times of need, or, everybody does. Your employees do that, right? And so, just be that support, be that pillar, and kind of make that pillar stronger. And that's, apart from that, there's not really much we can do except what do we do? What's our basic premise of existence is get order, make order, deliver order. That's, it's a very simple business at the end of the day, right? and just going back to basics. That's why I think this time is very, very cool for someone like me.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if we flash back all the way to the start of our conversation, then again, it'll be interesting to look back at some of the snippets or comments that came out of this journey as we continue to tell the stories of all types of people that are dealing with this. One of the statements at the beginning was that every storm runs out of rain, and just our understanding that it will stop. The rain will stop gives us hope. And we go fetch the opportunity because that's how we're conditioned as humans. This is a little bit complex because we have health and financial and panic and political all hitting us in probably equal impacts. But this hope is starting to come out of it, even though we don't have a date, even though we don't know what the other side of this looks like. Even we have Fauci saying that the handshake may be eliminated forever. I mean, there's so much pressure on us as humans, yet it's refreshing, and I'm grateful for this conversation that I was able to have with you guys today. This is so valuable to us and to our audience. For anybody watching at home, again, please go to our Facebook page. If you search the Franchise Growth Mastermind, you can find it and join our community. Everybody, I appreciate the conversation yet again. I wish you both all the best in the entire world. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.